Tonight, we are talking about bridging the generational gap. And there's a new podcast that does just that. It's called Across Generations.
My money is my money so that I can invest in building myself, right? As I'm now in this relationship and I'm aging, right? And your money is to provide for the unit. And so if that looks like taking care of the bills, because if I'm having children, I'm not working. I'm taking care of the kids. I'm taking care of the house. And so I don't think that's asking for much. I think that's asking for a...
But you're saying in a marriage, let's say.
Yes.
You're saying the money you earn is your money.
Yes.
The money
for
he earns is our money.
For the household, yes.
But so to me, that doesn't say partnership, though. Like, what
it is partnership.
Now, that's a conversation. The podcast brings together Black women from different generations, one seasoned elder, one middle-aged, and a younger woman for a candid conversation that covers a myriad of topics. Joining me now is the heart and soul behind this brilliant podcast, the multi-talented, amazing Tiffany Cross. She's a journalist, she's an author, and she's the host of the new Across Generations podcast. Tiffany, it's so good to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight on The Griot. I want to congratulate you, first of all, because your new podcast is groundbreaking, right? It's not just that you got a new podcast, it's going to have a big audience because you're famous and brilliant and all of that, but you're actually breaking ground. How important was that for you?
Well, before I get into that, Mark, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I have to give that congrats right back to you, brother, because for years, for decades now, really, you've been on the forefront of political discourse, cultural discourse. And I got to tell everybody, find you one that could do both, because that's what we have to be. We have to be ambidextrous in this world as Black folks. So cheers to you.
For sure.
For all of your platforms, because I watch you on all of them. And so thank you for having me. And I'm so excited about this new podcast. I have to tell you, when my show was canceled on NBC, and one of the first people I heard from was Will Packer, who said Will Packer Media would love to be in business with Tiffany Cross. And we collaborated. I had several ideas ready to go. He jumped on this one, said, let's press the gas. And when I heard you talking about there's a middle-aged woman, I'm like, who is the middle-aged woman? Oh, that's me. I'm the middle-aged woman. I have to keep wrapping my mind around that. But yes, so we have 3 different generations. Life comes at you fast. And we talk about everything. And, I know a lot of people are used to me talking about politics, but here we talk about sex. An 80-year-old is going to have a different opinion on sex than a 20-something. We talk about what you wish you knew about money in your 20s. We really want people to watch with their mothers, their daughters, their grandmothers, their group chats, their sisters, and even the fellas. We want the fellas to pull up too and hear what we're talking about.
Now, it seemed like there was a time when them kind of conversations were taking place, like at the kitchen table. But now stuff is different. Why do you think this platform and tackling these kinds of conversations was so important to do?
Well, I lost my grandmother in 2014, and I remember sitting at her table being her sous chef, essentially. So while she was teaching me how to chop onions and dice peppers and what mac and cheese should look like before you put it in the oven, I was asking her about life and love and how to harness joy and how to get through grief and pain. And I look at the landscape of young women today with love, not necessarily pity, but yearning for them in so many ways, because they're confronting a society that looks very different than it did when we were younger. And I just thought, I wish I could bottle up Gladys Reed, that was my grandmother, and give her to them. And there are so many Black women are oracles. There are so many Black women who have the benefit of time and days spent on this earth. And I thought, I want to bring us all together and not look at these young women with judgment, but see them as they reflect back to us who we once were. And I want to talk to the women who were us before us. So even though we're together in this, living room style platform, I want the conversation to continue with people in their homes, around the kitchen table, at their, book clubs, at their brunch meetings, at their Jack and Jill mom meetings, at the hair salon, and all the other places where we gather, just to escape politics for a minute, escape everything that's happening, and just embrace and relish in the magic that comes together with Black women. And you know this, Mark, if for all the folks who come together, if me and you are talking and one person comes in that conversation who don't look like us, the whole conversation changes. So it's the same with Black women. I want to invite people into that magical space. You get to eavesdrop on this magical space on what happens when these women come together.
What is the area for you in your life that you wish you had known more about when you were 20?
Oh, I would say love. Definitely love. I think the go-to answer might be money, but I'll say love in the respect of loving yourself. And I think that's such a journey that carries you through the lifetime. So even when you're dating, building friendships, finding jobs, the love of yourself and the relationship you have with yourself is the thing that will sustain you. And there were many times, Marc, where I stayed in spaces where I felt unworthy. And the truth is the spaces were unworthy of me, be it a job. I remember when I got my first job at CNN and I was grateful that the white man would let me work for him 18 hours a day. I was grateful that the white man let me navigate his newsroom. And I had that attitude so many other times. And as I went through, different ups and downs and hardships in life, I learned to acknowledge my own value, come home to myself in so many different ways, love myself. And it's still a journey. I'm in my 40s and this is a journey that I'll continue to be on for more decades. But if that's one thing I say consistently throughout the show, no matter what we're talking about, is love. Come home to yourself and build that relationship first. What do you wish you knew? Can I ask you a question? What do you wish you knew when you were younger?
That's tough. Money. Probably money.
I knew you were going to say money.
It is, it's like a tie between love and money. The love stuff,
yeah.
As a black man, I wish I had understood my self-worth, my value, and that it wasn't necessarily bound up in being everywhere and every place, if you get my drift. Like, there was a way that I was so outside, but I thought I needed to be outside like that to affirm my manhood and my masculinity. But I learned that by the end of my 20s. That's why I don't see that as, that was just as valuable a lesson, but I learned it toward the end of my 20s, whereas money, I didn't learn to my 40s. I'm 45, and I'm just starting to really figure out what it means. Like you said, life comes at you fast. Now I'm like, I wish I had thought about these things and had somebody to advise me earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Uncle Bobby's is thriving. I send everybody there. So you are ahead of the game, my brother. We appreciate what you do for the culture.
Thank you. You see how good a host she is? She got me answering questions. I love it. I'm sitting there like, love. Let me ask you a question about this content space, though. Because, you put out a product that's amazing, right? What you've done with Angela and Andrew is also amazing. Yeah. What you're doing here is amazing. But it's not the cheap seats, right? Some people can put out a podcast or a video just talking about who having sex with who, talking about celebrity gossip, talking about violence, and they know they're going to go to the top of the charts. Do you get a little nervous at all, putting out content that's so high quality but doesn't necessarily get all the views automatically that the cheap stuff does?
No, I'm mission driven, and I would encourage other people to be that. My mission in life is to be in service to Black folks, and everything I do needs to accomplish that or feed that goal in some way or another. So as long as I'm doing that and making the culture proud, I'm okay. If my mission was to go viral, then it would be a hard thing to be a slave to these internet. So thankfully, I'm a little out of that genre.
Well, I am glad that you are mission driven and you are honoring the culture every day with what you do. Tiffany, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and best of luck on this new venture. All right, y'all. You can catch Tiffany's Across Generations podcast on iHeartRadio app and everywhere that podcasts are heard.